Welcome to the Mom as Well podcast, where we are digging deep into the gifts and the gaps in foster and adoptive parenting. I'm Tara Hutton, and I'm glad you're here. Mama's Well. Yes, she is. Hey, welcome to our first bonus episode. I'm excited to share it today. If you'll go back to episode 2, where I had my hubby, Kyle Hutton, as my guest. Kyle's adopted, so we talked about his adoption story and the emotions all wrapped up in that. But we stayed for a while. We talked for a while. We had a good old time. And so some of that we didn't share. And so today's bonus episode, I pulled a clip where we're talking about something that's been hard for us, and that is navigating the birth family relationships. And you know what? Even just leaving a visitation, that just evokes so much emotion. I remember those are really heavy days for me because you're reminded that of your role, of you're standing in the gap. And there is a family that existed before you became the parent or the stand-in here. So those are hard emotional things to talk about. Or maybe you're like us and you've already adopted and you're trying to navigate what that looks like. What kind of relationship do we have? Where do we go from here? What's healthy? What's not healthy? These are all the questions like we're asking real time, all the time. And so I hope, this was just a conversation between Kyle and I where I was sharing some of the things that I'd learned. And so, and honestly, the truth is we question them all the time. And so I know you're probably feeling that too. So I hope this conversation, I hope it encourages you and maybe triggers new thoughts in your head about how to navigate. I know that we're constantly in that, in the thought process of what do we do now? How do we move forward? How do we help these kids heal? So sit back and enjoy. Let's kind of move the conversation to how that has affected how we deal with the girls.
Yeah, sure.
So when we started fostering, we started through, we adopted our girls through foster care. And we had, in my mind, both it's a privilege that we had opportunities for visitation with their mother and their fathers.
Yeah.
And while that being said, that's also there's a lot of, that's heavy. You know what I mean? That's difficult to do. And I would like to have a podcast on that at some point about visitations and how we, process all of that. But where I want to stay is that we have had the opportunity to get to know the girls, a grandmother and a mother and their mother pretty well.
Yep.
She's been to our home. She's eaten dinner at our table. We've had hours of visitations together. And I've tried to soak in everything that I can about her so that I can allow the girls to know their mom. And while that sounds beautiful, and it is also hard because there are times, like you said, you talked about last time on the podcast, episode 1 of the Kyle Hutton saga. You talked about how, how you, when you were in your room around 10 years old and you were like, is anybody going to come and get me?
Yeah.
And I think there have been times where our daughter, the older one, has said, I want my mama, and she wasn't talking about me. And
it's usually when she's in trouble.
It was usually when she had done something that she shouldn't have done, or she's being corrected or whatever. Matter of fact, it's pretty much, that's kind of the when that happens, when she's sad, when she's weak. But you know what? And you weren't always in touch with your emotions, but when you were in trouble, you were.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's not a play. Maybe it's just a moment of being in touch with their loss.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's easy for us to look at, oh, well, she's just in trouble. And of course she wants her now,
Yeah.
I don't think so. Maybe it's just
not.
a moment of when you had to sit and you had to be quiet because you were in timeout or something. I don't know what you were. But, and you were actually in touch with an emotion and a feeling. And I remember one time leaving a visitation and my daughter, they were both in the back seat in their car seats. And I mean, it was a rough place where we had this visitation. It was like Burger King / gas station, bulletproof glass. Like, I don't know where we were. I learned a lot about driving in Houston when I had visitations. I had to go some really crazy places, but I don't know why CPS set us up at this joint, but it was kind of rough.
It was a joint.
It was a joint. But I remember leaving there, and I remember leaving there because I was looking at my surroundings to get to the car safely with these two girls. And my daughter, when I looked back and was trying to figure out how to get out of this parking lot, I saw my daughter just staring out the window at the underpass where her birth mother had just left. And she was just staring out the window, and she was, sad. She was sad. And I said, how are you doing? Are you okay? And she doesn't like to be in touch with sad.
Yeah.
She dismisses it quickly.
Sure.
But in this moment, she said, I'm sad.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful that I had the wherewithal in that moment to say, it's okay to be sad.
Yeah. And let's be honest. It's sad.
It was sad. It is sad.
It's sad. Because it's not how it was designed to be. And a lot of times it's how it has to be. But how it was designed to be is that kids would be with their parents.
Right.
And that's not always how it plays out, It's not how it played out for me. It's not how it played out for you. And there's beauty in it all.
Yeah.
And it's sad.
I think that's sorry to interrupt you. But I think that's super important for us because neither one of us we both, our parents handled it differently, but neither one of us, and also because we didn't talk about this stuff back then. I mean, we didn't talk about feelings very much. Like now, I mean, if you have any therapist worth their salt at all, they're going to talk about how important it is. I mean, you've seen the little bear chart with the happy, sad, frustrated, all these little faces. They're going to help us understand how important it is that our kids understand what they're feeling and that they allow them the space to experience the feelings. But back then, it was like happy or sad. One was good and one was bad, and I choose the good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was that.
Brain science and everything else that we know now, we didn't know back then. Yeah. I wanted to say one thing too, just about, because every journey through the foster care and adoptive landscape is different, right? And ours has been really interesting in that we do have so much contact with the biological family because, we have friends that are involved in fostering that the very last thing they would ever do is see those people outside of a visitation office, much less. I mean, that is such a longer story about our interaction with the girl's mother and how much we love and respect their grandmother, who's also adopted 4 of their siblings. It's a different dynamic. And so I just say that to acknowledge the people that are listening that, you may not be in that situation at all. You may be in a situation where it would be best because of damage done and whatever, that there never be contact with the biological family. And it does not take away some of the things that we're learning. And I know Heather Forbes and some of those people that you've been engaged with recently are helping us understand about how to walk people through their story, because all the stories are different, whether it's the kid's story or the foster parent story or how we interact with the biological family, it's all different. But you're learning a lot about that.
Let's talk about that. So obviously our job is to keep a child safe. And sometimes a relationship with a biological family just isn't that, right? It isn't safe. It isn't safe for you. It's not safe for them. But their story is still that. And one of the people that I've turned to in understanding trauma, understanding how to parent my girls, understand how to heal myself, really a lot. Parenting them has brought on so much healing for myself. But is a lady named Heather Forbes. She's a licensed professional therapist, and she works a lot now. She's written several books, but what she does a lot of trauma-informed care in schools. She trains districts how to help kids in school, but she talks a lot about giving your kids her story. She's adopted 2 kids from Russia, and she doesn't know a lot about their story, but she says that we need to connect. It's not so much the logistics of the story, but an emotionally connecting on an emotional level. So like I just like that day when my daughter was looking out the window and she was obviously sad, I gave a word to her emotions, and I acknowledged how she felt. Yeah. And that's really all that was needed. You know what I mean? And I think that's what's needed is to be able to give a word to how they were feeling. You must have been so scared when that caseworker brought you to my door. Yeah. I bet you were really afraid. You didn't know any of us. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yep. And then so Heather Forbes talks a lot about how it's not a one-time event of telling your story. I'm just going to kind of tell you some of the things that I remember just off the top of my head, but it's not a one-time event that we tell our kids their story. Yeah. It's an ongoing conversation when we see something. That's what I do. Whenever I see something that I think to myself, you know what? I bet she's reacting that way because she's got some fear about being left out. You know what I mean? Like one time, I hate to get too specific about the girls, but I remember a story where they were fighting about something, and one of our daughters was, just feeling like it wasn't fair. Whatever. The other one had something and she didn't feel like it was fair. And it took a while for her to get in touch with what it really was, because she was just mad because I was separating them and trying to talk to her. But finally she broke just for a split second, and a tear kind of went in her eyes, and she came to her eye and she said, I just don't want to be left out. And then I was able to bring her story back. You know what? Yeah. I bet you are. I can understand why you don't want to feel why you feel left out. Yeah. Yeah. You came here, you left another place where you had siblings. You came to our house where there was a sibling. You might not always know where you belong. I understand that. That's part of giving her story, reminding her why she might feel like this at some point, And,
and the whole time, I mean, in essence, what you're doing every time you bring it up, which is my understanding of why it has to be repetitive, is because you're never letting them disappear for too long to that place of shame or isolation. Yeah. You're inviting it out into the open, right? Which gives them permission to feel sad, to feel angry, to feel curious.
And it's like for me, Kyle, I would feel feelings, but then my mother would tell me that's ridiculous. So then guess what the story in my head was? I'm stupid for feeling those feelings. Yeah.
Or
I'm ridiculous.
It's not safe to feel those feelings.
It's not safe to feel those feelings. And not only that, but it's just ridiculous. Okay. Yeah, that was just ridiculous to feel like that. So then what I began to make up about myself is I'm just ridiculous. Right? Because she said so. And so, it's super important that we allow that space, and that we, and that's hard because sometimes, trust me, I want to say what my mom said to me because I struggle with that. Stop it. Yeah. Stop. It's not a big deal.
It takes so much. It takes so much patience, and let's be honest, in life, I mean, we've got 3 bio kids that are older that still need things and deserve things and attention from us. And, you know, it's a challenge at times. You know, it's always a challenge for me. I'm always running like 1,000 different directions, and it's always a challenge for me to remind myself to slow down and meet a need.
Yeah.
Like slow down and meet a need.
Yeah.
Slow down and connect.
That's
right?
Hard. Right. It is.
Because sometimes I just want to like go to bed, stop talking. No, you know what I'm saying? Like I am about to just climb out of my tree if I can't get down there and get what I need to get done. And man, I mean, that's one of the greatest, I think, gifts that the girls are giving me is like, you know, they say if you pray for patience, be careful what God might bring you. Because he's probably not going to just give you patience, right? He's going to give you the ability to develop patience. So, you know, but interacting with our daughters, interacting with kids from trauma in a way that invites them continually. You know, it's like when we sit down and say our prayers at night, probably at least every other or every third prayer, I go through the whole list
of all their family.
The whole list includes their siblings, their biological siblings, their biological mothers and fathers. And then I always, just because I want them to have the correlation between them and me, is I always thank God for my adopted parents and then for my biological parents. That's by great. Name.
I love that you
because
do that.
You know, we really do have a household.
Yeah.
Like
we're mixed
abnormal.
Breeds.
It's abnormal in our household to not.
Well, we have 3 boys.
Be adopted.
Yeah, 3.
But there's 4 of us now. The 2 girls and us.
Yeah. We outnumber them. We outnumbered them.
We outnumber them. So
I'm glad that is one way. Heather Forbes talks about no matter. This is just I'm trying to remember the main points here that she wants to bring up, or that she's brought up that were powerful for me. But that everything is on the around age 12. Pretty much everything, they're able to handle that, hearing the story. And you know, when you think about it, like, okay, well, if we're not going to tell the story, well, why the heck do I live with you? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like if everything was so great, what did you just steal me or something?
Yeah.
You know, like, so it's important to know. And if not, if you don't, they're going to believe that it's about them.
They're going to make something up.
Yeah, they're going to believe that either they're not worthy or lovable, or you stole them, you know. Yeah. And you're really the bad guy, and it's not about being a bad guy or a good guy, right? That was the other thing, and I talk about this in the podcast that where I talk about my biological family, but that love is so big that it's possible to love, they can love us and still love their biological family.
Yeah.
I mean, don't we love all our kids?
Yep.
Some more than others. Just kidding. But we do. We love all our kids.
Sure.
And so they can love all their family. And as soon as we allow that, oh my gosh. Like for me, it was either you love him or you love him. Either way, I was going to lose.
Yeah. Sure.
I was going to definitely choose the one, you know, as he used to say, dance with those who brought you.
Yeah.
Okay. I had to say this to my dad at some point. I said, but Dad, 3 of you brought me. And so I had to figure that out. So, anyway, so telling the truth, that's super important. All of the truth, around age 12, she says that they should be able to handle all of the truth. They do have memories, being able to talk about those memories, bringing it up, because they're not going to want to bring it up. You didn't want to bring it up. I didn't want to bring it up.
Yeah.
Bringing it up all the time. for them. Every time you see an opportunity, like your prayer, or when, we're driving down the highway, this is the way we used to go to visitation,
Yeah.
And my daughter will say that as soon as we get on I-45, she used to say it. She doesn't say it anymore, but it's been a long time. This is the way to go see my mama, and so let's see what else. Just acknowledging the loss, validating their feelings, being emotionally connected, staying emotionally connected, understanding the emotions. It's not so much about what happened. It's how it made them feel. What are the emotions that are tied up in that?
Yeah.
And then one of the other things that she says that I hadn't really thought of is always giving the story from the child's perspective. This is tricky. This is slippery because I think we do this. We'll be like, I'm so grateful for you that we get to be your parents. Well, whose perspective is that?
It's ours.
It's our perspective. Yeah. So their perspective, because we can give that perspective, but Heather Forbes says it's much later. It doesn't mean we don't say, I'm so grateful for you. I love you so much. Yeah. But not making the adoption about their gift to us. It was first their loss. Yeah. Right? Their loss and understanding their loss. Understanding their loss. I guess that's the biggest thing. My loss wasn't validated at all.
Yeah. And it affected, because of the shame and the unprocessed trauma, it affected decisions that you made through your 30s when you finally started to get a hold of that. So for me, it all comes back, like utilizing these kind of strategies, educating ourselves on how to best deal with kids in the foster and adoptive realm that have experienced that kind of trauma, in how to join them as early as possible in the processing of that journey. Because these are just tools, right? But ultimately the decision that we have to make, and we have to make it every day, is, am I going to take the time now to help have some processing, to invite the child into the realization that we see you. Yeah. We acknowledge you. We acknowledge what you've been through.
And your loss.
And your loss.
Yeah.
And your trauma.
Yeah, there's so much. There's a lot of good resources out there, but Heather Forbes is at beyondconsequences.com. You can download, she has an MP3 that's called Giving Your Child Their Story. And it's like an hour and 45 minutes. That would be a great tool for anybody to go out and look up. Some of the things that we've done, when the whole family tree thing is, when they go to school, they almost always in kindergarten, they do a family tree. Wow.
The teachers get more than they bargained for on ours.
Yeah, I don't know that it's the greatest of activity. I'm as a teacher, I think looking in hindsight, now that I'm an adoptive mother, I don't think I would assign that actually. Because that's something that you need to first process at home for a while, before you're processing it as a kindergartner in front of 22 other kids and teachers. That's rough. So, but we did do the family tree, and our family tree was very big, and it was good it was a great activity. So it's not that the activity is bad; it's the activity, the context, and where you're going to actually do this activity. It's a great activity for home. Yeah. I think that's a great activity. Creating timelines. I have in the process, I'm embarrassed to say they're not complete, but these Shutterfly books that have pictures from visitation all the way through adoption, that the girls each have one that's going to be...
Are you experiencing shame?
No,
right
I'm not. Shaking it off. I'm twitching a little bit. No, but they also have, our oldest daughter, her birth mother gave her a book, a binder with sleeves and pictures, and she looks at it all the time. Yeah. And it's got pictures of her from before I knew her. Yeah. And so she just has that it's kind of like your paper, except hers is pictures. She has any little pictures, she hangs on to them and,
Yeah.
That's important for her to help her tell her story. Also, storytelling, like being able to talk about it in a story form. This is what happened. And anyway, there's a lot. There's a ton of stuff. I recommend that you go to Heather Forbes, beyondconsequence.com. That's just one resource. We're probably going on a little long today.
It's good
You
stuff.
have
It's
anything else
important.
you want to add, Kyle?
No, I'm so excited about the whole Mama's Well platform. I've been a beneficiary of your research and your resources and your passion to share the things that you're learning for years, and seeing this whole thing come together to where other people will be able to come experience that. And I love, one of the things that I love about your heart for putting this out there is, number one, you always want to give credit to everybody you're learning everything from. And number two, you are, I've always felt like you were just inviting people along the journey with you. Not, a lot of times we've all experienced when we're being spoken at versus having a conversation with. And I like that about you, and I like that about Mom as well. And I'm excited. Thanks for letting me be on the show twice, and I hope it's the first of many.
Well, how was that first bonus episode? I hope that it encouraged some thought in you. I know just me watching it again provoked thought and how we continue to navigate these muddy waters. So, you know what? We're all just making our way through, and so no one should do that alone. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you'll be back next week. And as I always say, subscribe, give me go down iTunes. If you go down to the very bottom of your podcast app where you're listening to your podcast, there's a place for reviews and there's a place for ratings. Both are great. So take a little time to do that. It helps us out. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Mama's Way.